Hello guys, welcome to another session. In this session, we are going to discuss about pure component. So let's start our discussion. In one of the earlier session, I have discussed about the best practices within the should component update, where I mentioned that whenever you are re-rendering the component, then prior to re-rendering, you should compare the difference between the current props and state values with the next props and state values. If there is a difference, then perform the re-rendering, and pure component concept is related to this logic only. So let's go to the earlier example which we did and look into should component update implementation information. So let's jump into the Visual Studio Code. So if you remember that we have created LC parent component, that is lifecycle parent component, as well as the LC child component. So these two components which we have created earlier, and now if we will go over here and hover on should component update, then you will find one information about this method call to determine whether the change in props and state should be trigger a re-render, which I mentioned. Component always return true. So see here what it has mentioned. Pure component implements a shallow comparison on props and state, returns true if any props or states have changed. Shallow comparison concept is related to the basics of JavaScript. You can refer my modern JavaScript course where I have explained these things in detail, so you can refer that course and you will get the information about the shallow comparison. For a time being, I just wanted to let you know that this is a comparison between the reference data type, that is an object, will compare the reference of the object. If you want to learn more about this, then please refer my earlier course, step by step mastering modern JavaScript course, where I have explained what is primitive type, what is reference type, all the basic concepts of JavaScript in detail. So theoretically you understand that what actually the pure component is. Internally, pure component implements a shallow comparison on props and state and return true if any props or states have changed, and it will not perform the re-render activity within the pure component if there is no change into the state. So we will understand with the example how it is different from the regular component. So let's do an example now. So I am going to create three types of component. First one is the parent component, which will hold the regular component and a pure component. So other two component which I am going to create, which is first one is the regular component and the second component which I will create is called pure component. So let's look into that how we will create it. So to create the component, as usual, we need to select this folder, and over here we need to specify p component, that is representing the parent component, and within that a file I am going to create, pc component.js, and this will holds the other two components, and I will generate the code with the help of snippet, and here we will specify those components which I am going to create next. So the next component I am going to create is the regular component. So over here I am going to select this component folder, click on folder, and over here rc component, and this will contain the file rc component.js, and over here we need to specify the snippet rce, and here we will tell that rc component, save it. Now let's create the pure component. So how we can create the pure component? We will follow the same steps. Select the component, click on folder, and over here we will specify pure component dot this folder I am going to create pure component, and within that I am going to create the file called pure component.js. So to create the pure component, we need to use the snippet rpce enter. So here you will find that it is extended from the pure component class. So let's add text over here. We will tell that pure component, and let's add these component into the parent component. So we will come here, over here we will specify the regular component, and then we will add pure component. Now add this parent component within the app component. So let's do it. So let's go to the app component, and over here just select this one, comment it, and here we will specify the parent component. Let's specify that this is our parent component, add it, let's save it. Now let's jump into the browser to see the output. So you will find that both the component gets added, but we are not seeing any visible difference. So to understand the behavioral difference between both these components, let's do some modification within the component. So let's jump into the the Visual Studio Code. So to demonstrate it, what I will do, I am going to introduce a constructor over here, and where I am going to initialize a state value, and this time I am going to tell that name, and over here I will tell that pure component demo. And now I will introduce a method called component did mount, and within that manually I am going to update the state with the same value. So let's do it. Component did mount, and within that I am going to define Windows set interval method. So let's call it set interval, and this time over here we need to specify a callback function that will set the state over here. So here we need to specify this dot set state, and over here we will assign the same value. There is no changes. Save it. Now the next step, we will pass this state to these components. So let's do it. So we will tell that name equal to this dot state dot name. Same is the case with the pure component. Here also I will pass the same state, and now I will handle this within each of the component. Within the regular component I will tell that over here, and here we need to specify this dot props dot name, and same I can apply to the pure component. So let's go to the pure component, but first save it, and let's go to the pure component, and over here also we will handle with the prop this dot props dot name. Now save it. Now the last step which we need to do, we need to console log so that we can understand that when the render is being called. So over here we will specify first, let's write it console dot log, and here we will tell that pure component called. Copy this one, and then we will go to the regular component. Over here we will specify the same, but this time we will tell that regular component. Save it. Go to the parent component, and over here also we need to specify the parent component. So let's specify it, parent component called. Save it. Now we have done with all the changes. There is one changes is remaining. We forget to provide the interval over here. So we will tell that every 1000 millisecond, that is 1 second, this gets executed. Now let's look into the output, what output we are getting. So this is the output we got. Let's clean this out and reload it. Then you will find that parent component, regular component, and pure component gets loaded, and after that the regular component is getting executed with the parent component, but pure component is not gets called, as it is doing the shallow comparison. Is there any change within the state? If it is not, then it is not getting called. So this is the difference between a regular component and a pure component. So let's proceed further. So now we have understand that what actually the difference between a regular component and the pure component. The first difference we found that pure component is derived from the pure component class, and the regular component is derived from the component class. Another difference is internally it is performing the shallow comparison within should component update lifecycle method to verify that whether there is a change in props and state. If there is a change, then it gets re-rendered, and if it is not, then it will not re-render like regular component. So on this note, I am stopping over here. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care.